Unprecedented times, brands, advertisement, marketing completely redefined, sir, in a span of 1 quarter. What are you seeing? How are you seeing the world change in terms of brand and marketing with the COVID era?
Difficult to predict where this is going to end, because I think we are just on the beginning of this cycle. So what I know is that a lot of companies have stopped production, so nothing is being made, and the chances are not just this month, not just April, but even May will become a very bad month in terms of production. And in companies, they start producing, they can't produce immediately. So, the supply chains have all been broken. So setting up all that is going to take time. The big problem is how all this is going to affect the psyche of consumers. How the human tragedy is going to play out, and will India be spared the kind of agony which places like Italy have gone through, or will we go through a similar terrible time? So we don't know. So it's a completely confusing situation for all of us. One, there is a personal safety and the safety of the family. So there is that personal issue, and of course then there is the issue of how society is going to take this. How are the poor people going to take this? If people are relatively well off are feeling so threatened and so scared, how are the poor people going to face this? Because we are complaining that we can't get our Oreo biscuits, but those people can't get their Parle G. So there's a huge difference. So that is one human side. So there is a human side of the problem. Then of course there is the economic and the business side of the problem, saying, look, when will we be able to go back into production? How long will it take for the production to start? And then how long will it take for the consumer to start buying? So will they continue to buy the way they were buying earlier, or are they going to change their behavior? Will they start down trading? Will they start postponing? So these are the kind of questions which we will probably start asking once this initial phase of the problem is behind us. As I see, the problem is still unwinding. The numbers are increasing. Even I live in a place called Prabha Devi in Mumbai, so several cases have been located in my neighborhood area. So it's still unwinding. So we don't know how it will play out. I only hope and pray that the Indian version of coronavirus is not as bad as it was in other countries, but that is just hope. So tough times ahead.
So I want to understand from you. You've seen so many ups and downs, and you've seen the evolution of the Indian consumers over the years. You would have seen the 2000, the Y2K crisis that we had, and then we had the great recession, or the meltdown, as we say. Of course, a lot of people are saying this is nothing like what had happened in 2008 or in 2000s. But how did you see the consumer behavior or the economic patterns or the spending patterns changing in those two episodes, which can help us in learning what we need to take away from this one?
I don't know whether, this is a similar situation. Like, for example, when the 2008 disaster happened, fortunately, India didn't feel very much of it. We had a bit of a blip. We went from something like 7.5% GDP to something like 5.5%. And then we came back up. So maybe for a quarter or so, maybe 2 quarters, our GDP growth came down to probably, less than 3 or 4 or 5%. But it bounced back quickly. There's always a flip to every downturn. In the last downturn, the benefit which India got was the fact that oil prices collapsed. When oil prices collapsed, our oil prices came down, petrol, diesel prices came down. that had a beneficial effect on many other things, and that helped kickstart. And of course, the government became very active in terms of pumping in more money into the system. So our downturn was not that severe at that time. Unlike in America, where in New York you could see panhandlers sitting and begging for money because their house has been repossessed. The problem in New York, and I'm going to talk about India and how there could be some parallels. The problem in America and the developed countries is that right through the 90s and the early 2000s, Americans had got used to a lot of cheap credit. As a result, you have a perfectly good Toyota Camry and you wanted to trade it in and you buy a Lexus. You have perfectly good Honda Accord, you trade it in and you buy a BMW. So people started living beyond their means. And so when the meltdown came, when the shutdown came, people had taken loan to buy a house, and they'd taken a second loan on that house to buy a car and a 60 or 70 or 80-inch TV, etc., etc. So when this whole game is there, right? And game is passing the parcel. If the music plays, you keep passing the parcel, the game can go on forever. But if the music stops and someone gets stuck with the parcel, so I've taken the loan and I bought this, and suddenly I'm stuck. And what do I do? So I'm repossessed, my home goes, my car goes, my everything goes. So this happened in America and to a large number of families, in East Coast and West Coast. But let's come to India. At that time, I think we were not affected very much. So I'm seeing a different pattern here. The last 10 years, if you look at the millennials, so probably 25 to 35 years of age, the last 10 years has been a great time for the millennials in India. You were getting, just doing your job, you were getting a 10% increment. You do a slightly better job, you get a 15% increment. And you want to jump, you can jump. So it's very rare today to see a CV of someone with 15 years experience in India who's not changed 7 jobs. So in 2 years, you're changing jobs. Because, the idea is that this is a gravy train. This is not going to stop. It's going to keep giving us gravy. We're going to continue growing, blah, blah, blah. So as a result, I know of a lot of young people between the age of 25 to 35 who are saying, why should I buy a house? Why should I save? Why can't I go on 4 holidays a year? And now, why should I buy a car? I can use Ola, Uber. It's, who will take the trouble? Why should I cook? I'll order from outside. So the whole mindset of the millennials has now become what we call experience-driven. So you're trying to adopt a very asset-less life. You own less assets, but you trade off that for experience. So you say, look, I have taken 2 holidays last year. This year I want to take 4 holidays, to 4 different places. Now this current crisis is going to make a lot of them question what they've been doing. This is my fond expectation. They're going to start wondering, and I think already a few companies have announced, at least in the business of, let's say, media, events, advertising, companies have already announced salary cuts. Now, salary cut is not something I have heard being talked about in social media in the last 20 years. I don't know. When did I hear of salary cut? I don't even remember when. All we knew was salary freeze. I mean, if you don't give an increment in a particular year, and a couple of years we've had to do that because of poor performance. Oh no, how can you not give salary increase? Other people, that. This year, I'm going to see something different. We're going to see salary cuts in several sectors, because very simple, salary cuts. Why? Because if I'm going to lose 1 month of revenue, that's going to knock 8% off my top line. If I lose 2 months of revenue, that's going to lose 16% of my top line. Now, some of the stuff, cannot avoid but pay. I'll have to pay my rent, but I'll have to renegotiate my rent. I'll have to pay my mortgage. I'll have to pay my, lease rentals for my cars and equipment, etc. So, what is disposable? What I'll need to cut is I'll try and cut salaries. Okay, so many companies already, the companies where I have some visibility are already saying, look, how do we do it? How do we try and make it less painful for our employees? So is it possible therefore we create different gradations? People below a particular paycheck, give them a slightly lesser cut. People above a particular paycheck, give them a higher cut. So that's going to happen. That for the first time, this generation, which is the 25 to 35-year-old, are going to see salary cuts, which probably they've never seen in their life. And that is going to drive some level of behavior change in them.
So that's a very beautiful way of how the consumer pattern or the consumption patterns will change over time. Now, if I were to go to the other side of the table, look at brands. Brands are an absolute hazy environment right now. Should they advertise? Should they not advertise? Is digital the way to go? The OTT thing is completely, the OH is completely out right now. What do they do? I mean, if they brand too much, are they being seen as insensitive? Should they advertise? Will they go out of mind share in another 3 months? What do they do?
Okay. Yeah, so this is I think brands have to be clear what they want to do. The current mood is every brand is trying to separate the logo and say do social distancing. I think that is, in my mind, pretty moronic. When McDonald's did it, it was one brand, it was okay, it was fun. Then Audi did it, and every brand is wanting to do it, which I think is completely imbecile. So here are three things you can do if you're a marketer or brand. One, is your brand in some way can be a help to the consumer today? If a brand can be a help to the consumer today, then you need to say that to the consumer, right? So, for example, if you're in healthcare, if you're in hygiene, if you're in nutrition, consumer is looking for information on all that, you should give it. In fact, just 2 days ago, I noticed an ad done by, I think, Yakult, which is this probiotic drink, which had a very detailed ad, which was like a double spread ad in a magazine, published, I think, a week ago, which talked about how Yakult will improve your immune system. Now, that's very relevant information, very useful information today, right? Or a brand which says, look, I offer germ kill, my hand wash or my soap or so those are products which should advertise now because they are probably going to serve a cause to the consumer. The second is a brand which says, look, there is some kind of a tenuous connection, and can I make a connection to caring for your loved ones, etc., etc. Say insurance will come into this, savings will come into this, mutual fund may come into this. Probably now's the time for you to keep sending your message across, because now's the time people realize that they should save for a rainy day. Okay. The third option, which probably is the most sensible thing for several brands, is that, look, just lie low. You've got 3 months to go. Save your money. Hopefully by July, things should be back to normal. And that's about 3 months from Diwali. So save your money till Diwali and then spend your money before Diwali so that the consumer is again coming back to buy. Okay, so there are three very different strategies on what brands can do to communicate, keep the brand alive. The problem is that either, the problem is you keep spending a little bit, and then 3 months later you've blown up a lot of money, and then for Diwali you don't have enough money left. So you got to balance this very carefully. Digital is expensive. You cannot keep putting your ads on digital. Digital is expensive. Though I'm hearing that even Google and Facebook have had a huge, daily newspapers carry no ads, right? Television carry only largely FMCG type of ads. Car ads have gone, mobile ads have gone, television ads have gone, and all gone, right? Even I think digital has seen a big nosedive in their ads, and their rates are falling. So it's probably very cheap for you to advertise today, but what is your long-term game plan with the ad? How is it going to help you? Of course, some brands have created specific ads for the crisis, which then makes a connection with the consumer. If you can do that, fine, do that. But will you still put money behind it in a big way? I'm not sure.
So one leading question to that is that for products, for tangible products, of course we understand the healthcare, the FMCG. I think those are the two sectors which will not take a massive hit as compared to some of the other products. What about services? Services which are becoming more and more relevant today, particularly when people are available, people have time to consume content, people have time to consume information. Do you still think you should hold back from a digital marketing perspective as well, or what is the other way to kind of get the mind share while people have time today?
Okay, so I think 2 days ago, I think I saw Byju's had released a full-page advertisement in all the leading newspapers, because it's the perfect time for Byju's, right? Kids are sitting at home, parents are worried, how to get them to learn more. So Byju's has done a great job of saying, look, let's open up some of our platform, let's give some of our stuff free, let people get to know what Byju's can do. So if you can, or there's a company which is into online doctor consultation called DocSap, based out of Bangalore, I'm advising, and they opened up. They're saying, look, this is a time, we need to communicate with potential consumers and start offering certain services free, because people can't go, and it's tailor-made. Product like Byju's, product like DocApps is tailor-made for this crisis. It's a bit like the Paytm and the demonetization moment, right? So for Byju's and for say DocSap, it's perfect that this is something which is perfect, which is made for you, created for them. So those people, it makes great amount of sense. For the others, I'm not so sure.
So Byju's, for example, if I were to take Byju's as an example, they have a lot of cash reserves, and then a push like this, plus the brand exists. But there are a lot of smaller players who are coming out in the open. And would you recommend to them that right now, trade off profitability, let the services go on for free, grab the consumer, and then move on? But the flip side to that is that if you give out a lot for free right now, you give a lot for experimentation, then the consumer memory is so short-lived, when it will come time to pay, they won't pay. There'll be other competitors they'll be looking at.
That's a risk. All the newspapers are taking that risk. Like they're offering free subscriptions to people now, but they're grabbing their email ID, they're grabbing some information so that so many people have come and accessed my my newspaper, and then when I finally put my newspaper behind a paywall, I can at least go to them saying, look, I'm going to give you, you came and used my newspaper, during the time of crisis. I hope you're happy. Now, I'm going to offer a special offer to you. You can continue to use it, but you'll have to start paying a small amount. Now, people may run away, but the Jio experiment worked, right? Jio, people did not run away. They started paying the $3.99 or whatever, and they came on board. So everyone is hoping that, they can crack this. The important thing, I was reading an article recently, and then I wrote something in I think Indian Management or one of those. When every economy goes through these ups and downs, and there are 3 professors in the US, Ranjay Gulati and Nitin Noria, and one more in Harvard. They did analysis of major slowdowns of the American economy over the last 50 years. And they looked at something like 1,000 listed companies on how did they perform. So they looked at their performance 3 years before the recession and 3 years after the recession. And they looked at what cost did they cut, what cost did they not cut. And they found a pattern. The pattern was simple, that companies which ruthlessly cut all costs during a recession took significantly longer time to recover. Whereas companies which cut carefully to use the recession to do something. So companies which said, look, during the recession, we have learned how to work with tighter teams or smaller teams, etc. So we'll have to, let's learn that, so improve our operations, improve our processes. But we will not cut innovation. We'll not cut R&D. We'll not cut uh, uh, marketing investment. We'll not cut human resource training. We'll not cut all that. What we will cut is what is possibly wasteful expenditure. We'll cut unnecessary carrying of inventory. We will cut unnecessary processes which we have included. We cut unnecessary levels in the company. Why do we need 6 levels? We can make 2 with 3. Okay. So companies which did that, and they found singularly outperform those companies which cut costs ruthlessly. So I think companies have to take a call. You can cut costs ruthlessly. It's a question is, I was talking to someone yesterday who said, look, we don't have any business, so let's sack all our 200 people. So his advisor said, look, you're going to shut your business? No. 3 months later, we'll start. So what, 3 months later, you'll start hiring these people, will come back? They will not come back. They're going to go away. So you need to, whenever you cut, you have to cut carefully. You need to cut the cost carefully. You need to make sure what is important, what do you need to continue investing in. You need to continue investing in marketing. You need to continue investing in innovation. You need to continue investing in R&D. You need to continue investing in talent, because that's what is going to save you tomorrow when the downturn changes and you got an upturn. Now I am more positive. I feel some people even talk about a recession of the 1939 variety or 1929 variety, and we'll go into deep recession for the next 2-3 years. I am still positive. I think hopefully we will be out of it in the next 3 months, and Diwali should be good. So the companies have to start thinking about that. Saying, okay, we think you're launching something in April. Now let's see, can we launch it in August? Let's prepare for that. Or we're supposed to do this conference in April. We're not doing it in April. Should we do it in September? So they have to start thinking that way, and not think of, okay, now it's going to be recession, we're going to have depression, we're going to continue for 3 years like this, then, we're not going to come out. So I think we can learn from China, how they've bounced out of it so fast. And I know some companies are actually worried today that China is going to come and start supplying stuff at a throwaway price, and we're going to be in deeper trouble. Because already we import so many things from China, and now China has got excess production, and they're going to dump at a lower price. So all these are issues, and I think smart companies have to figure out what they need to cut and what they need to conserve. So if they do it right, then when the tide turns, they will be able to benefit from the growth momentum.
Perfect. So one last question that I had. You are a guru for organizations globally when they talk about branding and advertisement. Can we have a few words from you about personal branding? There are a lot of people today who are using you are such a revered author yourself. I have 5 of your the books that you've kept at the back shelf. And what is your recommendation in terms of personal branding and utilizing this time to be the brand that you've always wanted to be?
Okay, the personal branding is a fascinating subject. I'm going to be doing a webinar tomorrow for the IIT Madras Alumni Association. So those of your participants, you can come and listen to more Gyan. But thank you very much. I'm not a guru. I'm just an old guy spewing stuff. So personal branding is something which was looked down upon by companies, but I think that's changing. Today, if you don't build your personal brand both internally and externally, you're not going to get the respect both internally and externally. If I'm in a company and internally I want to be pulled into the more attractive projects, I've got to have a good personal brand. Similarly, if I want to get a good job application, I've got to have a good personal brand. So personal brand, the mistake is everyone thinks personal brand is about, having a good Facebook profile or LinkedIn profile. It's bullshit, Personal brand actually starts with you. What do you stand for? What are your unique strengths? How do you manifest these unique strengths? And then Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever can come in. But can't be other way. I need to post something every day on LinkedIn. I need to post something every day on Facebook. It's a complete disaster, You got to then differentiate between what you think is personal, what you think is professional. Again, you have to differentiate between what is private and what is public. Now, from experience, I know that Facebook responds much more to private, personal kind of postings. LinkedIn responds much more to professional, public kind of posting. Twitter is somewhere in between, but Twitter is also becoming more professional and public. So you have to decide, first of all, what are you? Are you competent, professional, communicator, or are you going to be a very serious, introspective kind of a person? What skills do you bring to the table? Are you analytical? Are you intuitive? Are you creative? Decide that, and then check with people around you whether that is true to you. No, I cannot say that I'll become creative tomorrow. I'm not. I'm more analytical. So figure out what you want to be. Make sure that people around you agree that you're there somewhat, and then you can then polish that. So I think this is the time, the next 2 weeks is a time for people to figure this out and continue to learn. I mean, the most dangerous thing you can do is to spend 8 hours binge watching and to sleep in the afternoon for 4 hours. Now that's a disaster. I live in an area here, and a lot of people don't come out at all of their flat. Though you're allowed to come out and walk in the building, no one comes out. So I was just telling a friend of mine this morning, saying, look, these guys are 75, 80-year-old, and if they don't get out of their apartment and walk, what's going to happen to them? You're going to have people dying of other reasons, and not corona. So if you're young, you have the time, use this time to learn. Don't waste it on binge watching stuff on Netflix. I know that there are a lot of good programs on Netflix and Amazon Prime, but you need to figure out how much time you want to allocate on Netflix and Amazon Prime. Use this time to connect with old friends and old colleagues whom you've not talked to for years, because chances are you can get them on the phone. They'll pick up the phone and talk to you. So use it to connect with your old friends. Use it to connect with your old mentors. Talk to them. Right? They'd love to talk to you. Spend time learning. Spend time attending webinars. Spend time making notes. So that when the lockdown is over, you will come out of it, not as a tired guy who was locked up in an apartment for 21 days or whatever, but you'll come out as someone who knows so many new things, who's established contact with so many old people, renewed contact with so many old people. And believe you me, people will thank you for it. Pick up the phone, talk to your old boss for a long time, pick up the phone and talk to him. So it's a great time to reconnect with old friends, old family, old colleagues, old mentors. And this is the right time for you to keep learning. You can learn so much in the 7-8 hours you have left in a day. So restrict television, and for heaven's sake, don't keep watching news all the time. Don't keep obsessing about the coronavirus numbers. It doesn't matter. I think I was watching Sadhguru Jagiva, also there today in the morning on TV, and he said, watch the news once a day for about half an hour and then put it off. That's enough for you. You don't need to keep obsessing, what's happening here, what's happening in China, what's happening in America, what's happening. It's not going to solve your problem. So this too will pass, as they say, and you'll figure out how you can come out of this stronger. And that's up to you. That's I think up to every one of our listeners and viewers here to say, look, how can I come out of this stronger? Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Great. So I'll just take this fantastic personal brand, organizational brand, and the learnings thereafter. Now, can I request our audiences to please come forward with a few questions if you have. You can type it in the Q&A screen, in the Q&A tab.
think there is one question already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is, I don't know whether he's in this sector. I don't know whether Amit Sureka is.
Amit Sureka is from HDFC Argo.
Okay, so he's asked a question, I think a question about will this, if it goes beyond 6 months. So, well, good question, because, there's a company I sit on the board of, which is involved in digital cinema theaters. We are hopeful that, in 3-4 months, consumer will start coming back to movie theaters. They'll start coming back to other kinds of venues, whether it is restaurants, hotels. And I've been, I posted this on LinkedIn and I got a lot of response. So one of the things which is going to take a big hit, I think, is international travel. Because of all this problem, people will now be that much more worried about traveling to Italy, Spain, and France, and UK, etc. So this gives a great opportunity for domestic travel. So I think domestic travel should get a big boost, but I don't think this slowdown should hit will dramatically change our habits of going to movies or going to restaurants in the next 6 months. Maybe 3 months, yeah, definitely. Maybe 4 months, but it will slowly come back. And I'm sure, just like we are discussing, the movie industry is also discussing how to bring consumers back into the movie halls. Yeah.
Excellent. Swati.
Okay, now medical fraternities are already contributing a lot. I don't think they can contribute any more. A lot of doctors I know are today advising their patients on the phone. So those doctors are not attached to hospitals. Here's an opportunity for you to figure out whether you can be of some help in the hospitals and for caring for patients. So that's one way you can take a little bit of the burden which the doctors attached to hospitals are taking. So I don't know whether they'll allow you, but if they do, then I think that'll be a good thing. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so this whole thing about good question. I don't know what MR cannot phone call, cannot send WhatsApp messages to doctors. Doctors are going to get really irritated if they do that. Maybe you should just rest for a month on what you should do. There's a colleague of mine who's written a very nice book on pharma marketing called The Perfect Pill. You can actually order it on Kindle and read it and probably get some tips. But I think unless your medical rep knows the doctor extremely well, it will be very irritating to keep sending WhatsApp messages to doctors. And I'm told a lot of companies are telling their medical reps to do that. This is going to probably backfire on the company. So unless the medical rep has a personal equation with the doctor, and the doctor knows the medical rep by name, this is something you should avoid. Of course, if the doctor knows you by name, yeah, of course you can ask him, how are you, doctor? How is Babi? How are the children? All that is fine. Dimshika, how much time left? How many questions?
I can see that the number of questions which are just pouring in. So if you want to take a couple of questions more, we are hard stopping at 3:45. You can pick and choose the questions. I think all of them are excellent questions.
Where were we? Let's go by this order only, so that first come first served karenge. How to cultivate book writing and writing skills generally, like you, lucid, humorous. What's going to change marketers fundamental? Thank you very much for your kind words. I've been at it for 20 years. If you read my first 3-4 books, they're pretty quote unquote boring, very serious academic stuff. It's only now that I'm writing stuff like slightly more funny. Thank you, and very kind. Keep writing. I think Ram Jalan, if you're online, First thing is start writing, man. Instead of asking idiots like me questions, start writing and share it with your wife, share it with your brother, sister, ask them what they think. Start writing. That's how you get off your butt and start writing. Okay? And in order to write, read. So here is a thumb rule. To write one book, you should have read 10 books. To write one article, you should have read 10 articles. So read 10 articles and then write an article. Okay, you can't go wrong. Okay. Okay, Satish Kamble wants to know whether it's the right time to shift. Boss, I don't think there are jobs are going to be an offer, right? If you have a good job, hang on to it. I was advising a few companies and they are looking at hiring people, and I was telling them that you will get a lot of CVs because a lot of companies going to be getting rid of people. So unless you have a firm offer in hand, don't move. Stay put. Things are going to get very tough for the next 3 months before they improve. International marketing is a complex area. I'm not an expert, but your international clients are probably going through the same crisis you're going through. And if you're in the B2B business, the best thing to do is to be in touch with them. Be in touch with them in terms of email, be in touch with them in terms of social media if required, but be in touch with them. Now is not the right time to hard sell. Be in touch with them so they're aware of your company, they're aware of your products, but stay out of hard selling. I want to understand, Hitesh Pednekar is asking how to pharma industry look at digital platform for customers and consumers. So I think pharma companies are using this thing called a Docplex to connect with doctors. So that's like a LinkedIn for doctors. I'm told it's quite popular. And when it comes to consumers, you need to create useful videos which they can watch and share. So there are many such YouTube channels. There is something called Skin Story done by, I think, Nestle. So there are many such channels. What you have to do is to create the content, maybe 5 or 10 videos, and then spend money promoting them, and then hopefully you'll get some organic traction. So I have this simple theory, 70-20-10. So if you take your marketing budget, spend 70% on what you think has worked for you in the past, spend the same thing. 20% you spend on stuff which are new, which you don't know what the results will be like, and 10% you spend on completely outlandish stuff. Maybe get your logo on a YouTube singer's a t-shirt, something like that. Do something completely out of the box and see if it works. So 70-20-10 normally works.
So there are a lot of questions. If I can just, there was one. I think most of it is related to the pharma field as well, which you addressed. There's one question which has come, and I think it might be interesting to allude to, is that a lot of brands are using COVID as an excuse to connect to customers. The Yakult example was one. I don't know if they used the COVID name and said that the immunity is low, people are therefore facing trouble and therefore use Yakult. But is that the right strategy? Should you use Corona or COVID and say, this is happening and therefore use my brand? Or just use my brand?
No. I think it's, if you have a brand which is in some way relevant for the COVID crisis, you should highlight it, right? So I thought what Yakult did was right. So Yakult said, coronavirus attacks people who have lower immunity. If you take Yakult, which is probiotic, which will improve the immunity. They're not saying something like, if you take Yakult, you will not get COVID. No, they're not saying that. They're saying it will improve your immunity. So I think there's nothing wrong in saying that. I think consumer will like that kind of information. The doctor will like that kind of information. Think, look, COVID kind of viruses attack people because of lack of immunity, and my brand contains antioxidants which improves the immunity system. So please let your patients take this on a regular basis. The point is, no one knows what works, right? So no one knows what works. So everyone is groping in the dark for some answers. So if you tell the doctor, the virus, attacks this kind of immunity. I can build immunity. This brand will work for immunity. So please use, prescribe this product. That should be useful information. I think that's fine. Whereas there was an ad which came in the paper, and I think someone has filed a complaint against it, saying this mattress will protect you from COVID. So someone launched an anti-COVID mattress. Now that's patently stupid. Of course, India is, there are a fair number of stupid people here. So I'm sure someone must have gone and bought that mattress. But the fact is that's stupid. Don't do those kind of things. As long as you stay within the ambience of good corporate governance, you're okay. Good marketing practice. So, I am someone was saying that inhalation is very good as a preventive measure for COVID, that you should do steam inhalation. Now, I may say, look, I'm Vicks, and I will tell people that steam inhalation is very good for you. Message brought to you by Vicks. Now, I'm not telling you to put Vicks in your steam inhalation, but I'm saying, look, I am Vicks. I taught you guys to do steam inhalation, right, during cold. So now I'm telling you, do steam inhalation. Keep your nasal passages clear. Keep your chest clear. You will have that much less chance of getting this nasty virus, right? So, anyone else here whose question I should answer? You tell me.
So there's a last question which is slightly different. I think most of it you have referred to. I think they're talking about shall we? So Rishikesh asks, shall we go for business expansion or new brand launches in this Q1, or should we defer it to Q2 or Q3?
Well, I think I answered that. Q1 is, in my mind, is gone. Q1 is gone. So you need to take a punt. Should it be Q2 or Q3? I don't know when Diwali is this year, but depending on that, you may have to decide whether you want to do it in Q2 or you want to do it in Q3. Q1 is going to be very, very tough.
सर एक क्वेश्चन जो आंसर करना पड़ेगा इसमें पक्का से, वो वैभव गोयल का है. He's asked, every company is jumping for conducting webinars. How much impact will it have?
Vaibhav, you should answer this because you participated in this webinar, right? And so you should know whether it is impact. So let me give you some numbers. I am doing 3 webinars for IIM Ahmedabad pro bono. IIT Madras. It's my alma mater. I'm doing it pro bono for IIT. We had 450 participants in yesterday's webinar, and I can see we had 100 participants here today. I had 250 in today's webinar. What is fascinating is I was just going through. There were 92 questions yesterday during the webinar, and today there were 75 questions. And here again, I think it's close to 30 or 40 questions. Now, it's up to you. If you, as a company, you say, look, my people are sitting at home. I need to give them some useful inputs. This is a way you can add value to your people. Okay. But also you need to figure out, I think some companies are overdoing the Zoom meeting business, that people are just going from one Zoom meeting to the other. You need to figure whether that is right. SPJMR Business School, where I am an adjunct professor, students are finding it very difficult to attend more than 3 Zoom classes a day because it's tiring to watch the screen. So you need to figure out what is right for your company. You may say, this is a time for me to conduct one webinar every week for the next 2 weeks. Or I conduct 2 webinars every week for the next 2 weeks. And I want to do the webinars on these 2 or 3 topics, right? And people who are free are welcome to come and participate, right? But, or the other thing you can do is, if you're in HR, in training and development, look for good seminars which are free, which are available, and tell your people to go and participate in those. I mean, please remember, all these seminars have a limit. There is a limit. You can't go beyond Zoom. I don't know what the limit is, but on Zoho, you can't go beyond 600 or 500. Then you have to go for the paid version. So I don't know whether you have a paid version, but if you want your people to use the lockdown fruitfully, then you should encourage them on participating and learning from webinars. Okay, and just as you come here, I'm sure a lot of people will learn, if they participate in webinars. We are done.
Thank you very much.